So it seems like yesterday there was a potentially massive leak about a bunch of games we expected to see at this E3, including one release from Bethesda. So before we start off this video, as with any leak, take it with a grain of salt. Obviously nothing in this will be confirmed until E3 comes along. None of these companies have come out and explicitly confirmed anything, although one of these games had something very interesting happen after the leak became public. And in addition, if you guys do enjoy this content, you can subscribe to this channel. We are getting fairly close to 250,000 subscribers, so I'm trying to push our way towards that. So what happened? Well, it seems like Walmart Canada actually uploaded or created a bunch of placeholders on their website. We've actually had leaks through this method or through this accident before. More or less the way this is imagined to happen is somebody internally at each of these individual game companies reaches out to these distribution centers such as Walmart, Target, and begins the process now of actually cataloging some of these items, so it's simpler when the actual game gets announced and released. It's already on their website the next day after E3. So for all we know right now, behind the scenes, some of the major publishers of the world are reaching out to some of the major shopping centers of the world and actually getting this all set up. And seemingly, Walmart Canada messed up in this process and accidentally made a bunch of these placeholders public. So the original source for this is obviously Walmart Canada, but the guy that kind of made this pretty popular was Wario64 on Twitter. I will have a link to his tweet below. It seems like a lot of these news articles and things about this are actually referencing this tweet. So this is the image that is circling around. What you can actually see in this image is hypothetically a bunch of games or placeholders for games that will become public as soon as the pre-order phase does begin. So hypothetically, as the E3 conference is going on and things get announced, somebody at Walmart is going to manually activate each of these things so you can start pre-ordering it right away. There's actually a lot going on with that image, so I'm going to try and break it down and show you some of the interesting things on there. A few things were confirmed, like we already knew that was going to be coming at some point, we just never actually knew when. I'm going to keep those out because I don't think that's nearly as interesting as the potentially newly confirmed things on this list. Now I do want to emphasize here, there are some interesting parts about this that make it seem like this list may not be true. Really, one game in particular doesn't make a ton of sense, so take all of that with a grain of salt. But either way, for a quick summation of the new games, we do have The Division 2, that being one that a lot of people really suspected would be coming at some point, so it makes a lot of sense to actually appear on this. Maybe we'll get an E3 reveal for it. Splinter Cell, and I find this one to be pretty interesting. I'm actually a huge fan of the Splinter Cell games, especially some of the later ones, and although I don't follow that community super closely, I don't think there was any real rumblings about a new Splinter Cell game this year. And then of course, obviously the name's pretty interesting. It's just labeled as Splinter Cell. This could be for a number of reasons. Maybe it is actually going to just be called Splinter Cell. That's a theme we've been seeing with a lot of games and movies nowadays. Or maybe the title of this one is still a work in progress behind the scenes and it's just a placeholder also. Just Cause 4. So this one's going to be one I think a lot of people will be really excited for. Just Cause 2 and Just Cause 3 had a lot of critical acclaim and a lot of people just really loved those games. Getting a Just Cause 4 at this E3 and potentially a release later this year would be massive, and I know a lot of people, myself included, would be quite excited for that. Then we have Assassin's Creed Origins Ace Helix. This is pretty interesting because it seems like it could be another DLC for Assassin's Creed Origins. That does make sense. It is pretty plausible for that to be on the way, but hopefully what Assassin's Creed Origins Ace Helix will actually be is one of those larger DLC things that they kind of done in the past. Maybe more akin to Fallout Blood Dragon to just one of the other forgettable DLCs. Either way, it's pretty interesting that it's coming out at this E3 potentially. It's unannounced still, despite Assassin's Creed Origins being fairly old at this point, so again, hopefully it's something bigger and not just a forgettable DLC that we'll ignore. The Egypt location is really cool, and there's definitely a lot of cool concepts and potential for that. Dragon Quest 2, I don't know anything about the Dragon Quest series, so I'm just not even going to comment on this one, but hey, maybe it's coming. Pretty much the same story with Destiny comment. I don't really know much about that. I'll probably just look stupid or be reading something that's easily Googleable, so Google it if you want. Lego DC Villains, I've always been a fan of the Lego games, especially when I was younger, as with many of us. Again, I don't really follow the scene on those games too closely though, but a Lego game is always something to get excited for. Borderlands 3, so this is one that has had a lot of speculation and rumors surrounding it. Many people are expecting a Borderlands 3 at this E3, and this all but coincides with that already. Then we actually have Assassin's Creed, so this is pretty interesting. Obviously, I talked about Assassin's Creed Ace Helix a little bit earlier in this, so maybe what this is going to be is at this year's E3 conference, they're going to announce Assassin's Creed Ace Helix, but do one of those kind of like same day things, or you could play it in 2 weeks. But later on, they're also going to announce the new Assassin's Creed game for this year. It feels like it's actually a pretty quick turnaround between this game and the previous one, but it definitely is possible. Ubisoft has been known for doing things like that in the past. It wouldn't be totally unique or distinctive, and I again think it could be something we see at this E3 in that style. Then we get to the Bethesda one, and this is the one that actually had a lot of interest around it. This is going to be Rage 2. So Rage, if you don't know, was actually a Bethesda Softworks game that came out, I think, back in 2011. A lot of people really enjoyed that game. I personally was never a big fan of it. I remember watching it, and it obviously only got that singular game, and it's been 7 years, and we really haven't heard much about that franchise since. Nobody was expecting this game. There's no speculation or leaks around it, but interestingly enough, on Twitter, there was quite a distinctive reaction to this. So the official Rage Twitter account, which has lain dormant since that game's original release and follow-up, had all of its tweets deleted and actually tweeted at Walmart Canada with a few notes as to the game cover, more or less correcting on how this placeholder title would be inaccurate compared to the official Rage title, as well as throwing in that anarchy symbol. So again, this is really interesting because obviously this could be taken in a number of ways. Maybe they're just joshing around, making fun of Walmart Canada for leaking this never to become game. Or maybe Rage 2 really is coming soon and they just want to generate some publicity around this. If the second one is true, it definitely worked. If you read most news coverage of this potential leak from Walmart, most of the headlines do have Rage 2 in the title, largely because of these tweets. Even though a ton of really cool and interesting games got potentially leaked, a lot of people are talking about Rage specifically. In addition, Pete Hines tweeted something interesting about this also. He basically said, this is why we can't have nice things. So yeah, maybe he is just trolling there, but it also makes it kind of seem like it is real and Rage 2 is coming at this E3. And then one last one, we actually do have Gears of War 5, which again, plausible. Maybe it's coming, maybe not. But then we also do have the less than exciting entry, that being Forza Horizon 5. And this one is not so exciting because it makes this whole list seem way less plausible. If you guys don't know, there is the Forza Motorsport series. That's like the main series of racing games. Forza Horizon takes you to some more tropical or abstract locations, beaches, jungles. It's a more casual game compared to the regular Forza Motorsport. Forza Horizon is only on its 3rd iteration though. The announcement of Forza Horizon 4 makes a lot of sense, but Forza Horizon 5 should hopefully be many years away. So why is Forza Horizon 5 and not Forza Horizon 4 appearing on this list? Was it just a typo? Did they mean to type 4 instead of 5? That is one possible explanation, although I find that super unlikely. I honestly don't know what that means because it doesn't really coincide with any of the other explanations. It's kind of just a weird outlier appearing here. Like, okay, let's say we're subscribing to the belief that this is just a bunch of potentially released games and Walmart Canada doesn't actually know if any of these are going to get released, but they predict many of them will, so they're just adding them to their catalog. If that's the case, why is Rage 2 here? No one expects a Rage 2 to be released, and there's no rumors before this post about it, so it wouldn't make a ton of sense, even if these are just speculative predictions, to grow out or expand some of their inner catalog, that they would add Rage 2 also. I mean, it could also just be a typo, I guess. Forza Horizon 3 came out 2 years ago, Forza Motorsport 7 came out 1 year ago, so it kind of makes sense that Forza Horizon 4 could be announced at this E3. I honestly don't have a good explanation for that one, so let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this, what you think about this leak as a whole. Do you think it's real? Do you think it's plausible? How do you feel about like the activity on Twitter between Pete Hines and the Rage Twitter account? But of course, before we end off today's video, we also do have today's psychology fun fact of the day. So a lot of these have been job focused over the past few days, and I'm going to have another one here. So take a minute to think about this. What would you speculate is the #1 indicator of people staying at their jobs? So what about a workplace environment will make it the most likely that you will remain at that job for a longer period of time? I mean, you probably think good pay, maybe a small difference between your pay and the CEO's pay, getting paid more than your colleagues, things like that. Well, actually, no, it's having friends. Yeah, if you have friends at work, that is the biggest indicator for keeping employees longer. So at first glance, you may be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But the implications of this are actually pretty interesting. This is a revelation that industrial psychology has kind of made over the past years, and a lot of policies at workplaces are now becoming reflective of this. Things like water cooler talk are actually encouraged at major corporations nowadays rather than discouraged. So going to the break room for a snack in the middle of the day and BSing with some of your employees for 5 to 10 minutes. Things like that do make it so those employees stay longer. And even though, yes, that's inefficiency throughout the day, over the long term, it's efficient because you spend less money training new employees. Even at certain locations like IBM's headquarters in New York City, you can actually get a beer with your employees at the office. Obviously after like work is over, but it's encouraged that, hey, while you're on your way out, why don't you just stay for a half hour, drink something, and then go home to socialize with your coworkers. It's like one of those things that you kind of think the company wouldn't want at the end of the day. You don't want your employees socializing and not getting work done, but maybe you actually do in the long term. Either way, I found it pretty interesting, so I wanted to share it with all of you. As always, again, I thank you guys for watching. The semester's coming to an end now, so hopefully we should get some, better content over the next coming weeks. I have 5 days left to finals or something. But then following that, hopefully I'll have some pretty cool stuff stuff. And of course, I am actually going to be doing a daily live stream schedule. So I'm going to try and get like a proper video schedule, like videos released every day at noon, maybe live streams every day at 9 p.m. Either way, as always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed again, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.